In this video, we are going to talk about the most dangerous fat in our bodies, the one that causes the most health problems and increases the risk of death. Let's see if you are at risk, and of course, I will not leave you alone with this dangerous fat and tell you what you can do to fight it. Fat is different in different parts of our body. White subcutaneous fat is most often hated because it forms folds and cellulite. But the three graces have back fat and love handles. And Aphrodite has stomach rolls. Having them doesn't make you less healthy, especially if your body mass index is within the normal range. But there is another fat, which at first glance may not be so visible, because it creates neither folds nor cellulite. And this fat can also be in a person of normal weight, with slender arms and legs and a normal BMI. Yet it is the one that creates the major health risks. It increases the risk of diabetes, heart attack, stomach, colon and breast cancer. It increases insulin resistance of tissues, causes liver obesity and pancreatic dysfunction. It is visceral fat. This fat is packed inside our body, mainly in the abdominal and partly in the chest cavity. Visceral fat is normally present in a slim, healthy person too. It covers the internal organs like a bubble wrap, keeping them safe from damage, bumps, and cold temperatures. But in some cases, the amount of visceral fat grows, squeezes internal organs, fills the abdominal cavity, impairs the metabolism of sugars and fats, and causes a huge health risk. Let's find out how much visceral fat do you have, and should you worry about it or not. To figure out if you have abdominal obesity or not, you need to take a few simple measurements. Take a measuring tape, stand up, and measure the stomach circumference around your waist. 2 fingers above your belly button. To be quite precise, you need to find the last rib and the top of the iliac bone, the upper part of the hip bone. The waist will be in the middle, between them, between the last rib and the iliac bone. During the measurements, the stomach should not be pulled in. The posture should be relaxed and calm, and the measurement should be performed while exhaling. The tape should lie flat, not dig into the skin, and be parallel to the floor all the way. So, if you are a lady, the norm of the amount of visceral fat is within the waist size of 80 centimeters. If the value is greater, it is likely that you have abdominal obesity. If you are a gentleman, your waist should not exceed 94 centimeters. If your waist is larger, abdominal obesity is present. The more your waist is larger than normal, the higher the risk that visceral fat will cause some diseases. In one research, I found out interesting hypothesis that each of us has a personal threshold of the visceral fat mass, and after reaching it, the person gets diabetes. And sometimes this threshold could not be so high and may depend on your personal characteristics, like age, genetics, race, bad habits, etc. That could explain why some rather lean people get diabetes. Another way to detect abdominal obesity is to calculate your waist to hip ratio. If you have already found a measuring tape at home and now are still standing with it in your hand, it makes sense to measure the hips as well. Measure the widest part of the hips. The tape should be parallel to the floor and not dig into your skin. Now you need to divide the volume of the waist by the volume of the hips. If you are a gentleman, the value should be less than 0.9. If you are a lady, the ratio should be less than 0.85. Larger numbers indicate abdominal obesity. If this video is useful and clear to you, you are interested in how your body works and what happens to it, subscribe to my channel, put a like, and welcome to our friendly community. if you are a fairly slim person with skinny arms and legs but a prominent belly, you may have abdominal obesity without being generally obese at the same time. Your BMI may be within normal ranges and your weight may be quite small. In this case, unfortunately, you get all the same negative effects from visceral fat as obese people with excess weight. You will of course ask me here, what about the smart scales that can determine my body fat percentage? I'll tell you about it at the very end. Where does belly fat come from at all? Why does fat start to accumulate in the stomach, on our waist in the first place? What processes in the body rearrange the fat tissue in this way? Such fat has several reasons. Like any other fat, this fat is stored when you consume more calories than you burn. If there is a calorie excess, the body stores it as fat. If there is a calorie deficit, the body burns fat. But that's not the only sufficient condition. The second is stress. Just look at this man in the picture. He's got skinny legs and arms and a very large belly. This is how people with hypercortisolism look like. This is a condition in which the body produces too much of the hormone cortisol. It is a stress hormone. Therapy with steroid anti-inflammatory medications can have the same effect. What does cortisol actually do in our body? Since it is produced in response to stress, cortisol's job is to find energy to expand while we fight or run. It causes fat depot to release fat and turn it into glucose that gives us energy. It also causes most tissues to stop taking up glucose from the blood. Cortisol makes sure there is as much glucose in the blood as possible. In addition, it makes the liver make even more glucose to saturate the blood with it. If you actually spend all that glucose on running or fighting, the reaction can be said to go according to nature's intended plan. But the problem is that nowadays we often feel stress, but no reaction or movement follows it. On the contrary, we sit while our bosses scold us, sit when we take an exam, sit when we write an annual report and are late with it. There is a lot of stress, but no movement. As a result, after some time, cortisol thinks that its mission is completed and tries to put this huge amount of glucose in your blood somewhere in reserve in case of the next stress. And the closest and most accessible storage for this becomes visceral fat. It is easier to remove glucose from blood exactly there because it is very actively supplied with blood vessels and it is much more sensitive to cortisol than subcutaneous fat. So, the stress takes the fat from under the skin, from the arms and legs, and moves it to the belly. The saddest part is that after the glucose has gone into belly fat, we dramatically start to crave food. This is always the result of stress. The body thinks we've used up a lot of energy and tries to restore it, even though we haven't moved at all and haven't wasted any energy. The third reason for fat storage, specifically in the stomach, is hormones. Women often start to deposit fat in the abdominal area after menopause, when there is less estrogen, less hormone. And men in general are more prone to belly fat deposition due to hormonal differences. They never had a lot of estrogen. But hormonal shifts are not a sentence. And it doesn't mean that you can't do anything about your stomach fat. It just means that in such cases, it's easier for visceral fat to accumulate. Visceral fat will always increase the insulin resistance of other cells. It's very active hormonally and releases substances that promote inflammation. By getting rid of it, you get rid of a lot of problems at once. And that's where I have some good news for you. It's a lot easier to get rid of that fat than subcutaneous fat. It's burned first. And I've got a great idea where you can start. And the first one is a calorie deficit. And here, of course, you will think that I will tell you to start a strict diet, eat only 1,200 kilocalories per day, and eat only yogurt and apples. But no, I have a plan for you how to cut calories and not even notice changes in your diet. No hunger, no suffering. The only problem here, you will not lose 10 kilos in a week. The process will be slow and gentle. So let's call it plus 100 minus 100. You need to find in your diet 100 kilocalories per day that you can easily give up. What could it be? 100 calories is, for example, a glass of cola or Sprite. It's 2 slices of bread. It's butter on 1 sandwich. It's a tablespoon of sugar. It's 3 pieces of chocolate. It's 20 gummy bears. I love gummy bears. I don't know what kind of extra calories you will find, but agree if you used to eat 2 cheese and butter sandwiches in the morning and you will start eating 2 sandwiches, but one of them will be without butter, only with cheese, it won't make you hungry faint. After a while, you will even stop noticing this small change. This is minus 100 kilocalories per day. In addition, let's add movement for 100 kilocalories per day. That could be an extra 2,000 steps. That's about 15-20 minutes of walking. Or that's 2 minutes of climbing stairs. Not a lot, but you have to add this movement every day. You'll say, it's too little. It's better not to start at all. It's nonsense. We need a strict diet, exhausting workouts. That's what people do when they want to lose weight fast. But while you've spent the last 5 years losing weight fast, with such a smooth calorie reduction scheme, you'd have already lost 8 kilos of fat in a year. 8 kilos! Imagine that. On small changes for which you won't need to reward yourself with a cake, you won't give up, and you won't suffer from hunger or hard workout. It's perfect to get you started. I believe in small but daily steps more than single body-destroying actions. The second thing that will help you lose weight is to avoid alcohol. Although a big belly is called a beer belly, alcohol does not directly affect the development of visceral fat exactly, but it does affect on accumulation of the fat in general. By giving up alcohol, even if you drink not often, you will lose another 7 kilos in a year. That's not my opinion. That's an average statistics according to several studies. Visceral fat itself is very insulin resistant and secretes substances called resistins that reduce tissue sensitivity to insulin. So far, it's important to control sugar intake to reduce abdominal fat. But not only what and how much you eat is important, but also when you eat the food. Our tissues are differently sensitive to insulin at different times of the day. Then in the morning, tissues are very sensitive and can take glucose from the blood very fast. But in the evening and especially at night, tissues become more insulin resistant, even if you are a healthy person and you have no diabetes. So, if you eat sugar, carbohydrates or starch-containing food at night, the glucose that you'll get with this food will be present in the blood for a long time and will be stored in fat. Try to eat all carbohydrate foods and sweets before 3 p.m. Or if you have insulin resistance, maybe before the midday. After this time, you should only have healthy fats, proteins and vegetables in your diet. Sweets in the morning, yes please, but never in the evening. Only in the morning, please. Sugar, yes please, but only in the morning, please. Lack of sleep always leads to increased stress, increased cortisol, increased blood sugar, insulin resistance, and weight gain in the end. You need 7.5 or 8 hours of sleep every night. If you don't get enough sleep, you are more likely to eat more to wake up yourself, and your willpower control of food choices will be reduced, and your crave of fatty and sweet foods will be very high. It's human nature. There have been many studies, and they all show that sleep-deprived people eat more. And finally, stress. If you want to lose weight, it's important to invest your time and attention in getting your sleep and reducing your stress. Stress is not an objective thing. It's a subjective feeling. It's how we react to stressors that will always be there. We can't get rid of them totally, but we can reduce the impact of stress on ourselves. How to manage stress? See my next videos. Make sure you are subscribed. In the comments, write if you accept my challenge for plus 100, minus 100 calories for the next month. We have to start somewhere eventually, and that will be a great start, don't you think so? And at last, a few words about the smart scales. There are smart scales. Even scales now are smart, and I'm still not. These scales with metal plates and some special devices, maybe in clinics, with electrodes, which help to calculate your percentage of fat and muscle in your body. The principle of operation is as follows. The device passes a weak electrical current through your body and measures the resistance of tissues to this current. Tissues rich in water, such as muscle, have a lower resistance because the current flows through the water easily. That's why it's so dangerous to throw the blow dryer into the bathtub. Tissues rich in fat work as an isolating material, like plastic coating on the wire, and current flows through them weakly. In fact, the device detects how much water is in your body and subtracts the mass of tissues with water from your total weight, which will be the mass of fat. Body resistance is a very fickle thing. The resistance of the skin is different for everyone. If your skin is dry and intact, the resistance will be rather high. If you have sweaty palms and feet, or you have some damages like blisters, for example, the skin resistance will drop. Smart scales are very inaccurate. They can underestimate your body fat by 5-7 kilos. And if you have a lack of water in your body, the scale will show that you have more fat than you actually have. If you've been exercising 2 hours before the measurements, the scale may overestimate your muscle mass by 12 kilos. 12 kilos! Imagine what would happen if you weigh yourself before and after the workout. Of course, for one training session, you will not build up additional 12 kilos of muscles. In general, the device is certainly fun, but you should not rely on its measurements. Devices in clinics are more accurate, but still give very questionable results. The most accurate determination of the amount of visceral fat is provided by MRI or body densitometry. Does everyone need to undergo such an examination to find out how much visceral fat they have? No, I don't think so. A regular, cheap measuring tape will be enough for most people. Now you know how to detect visceral fat, why it accumulates exactly on your waist, and what you can do with it. My name is Svetlana Proskurina. I'm a physiologist, neurobiologist, and philosophy doctor. I've taught medicine to medical students for 7 years and researched physiology processes in the body and drug actions for 13 years. Now here I explain how our body works and try to make some specific medicinal knowledge and scientific discoveries more understandable and useful for your daily life. Join me if you are interested in. Press subscribe button to stay tuned and not to lose me in a huge YouTube videos ocean. That's it for today. Be healthy, say goodbye to visceral fat, and go ahead with your new healthy habits. See you in the next videos.